Hello, my name is Dada, and I will be your host for the next 3 to 5 minutes. So, if you saw the title, you already know what this is about, and if you haven't, then here it is. Dadaism. Right. This may seem like chaos, but guess what? It is exactly that. Dadaism was a movement originated in Zurich, Switzerland during World War I. It was originally a stand against trench warfare and just war in general, since by the time it came to be, people started to realize that maybe war wasn't so great after all, and many were turning specifically against the idea of trench warfare, as it was seen, not unreasonably so, as a waste of human lives. Considering the time period and the initial goal of the movement, it was quite chaotic in its nature, as many artists, visual, performing, or otherwise talented individuals decided it was time for some changes. With the goal of achieving total liberty, social, moral, and intellectual, Dada movement formed in 1916, though technically its origins date back to some time earlier than 1914. Dada was sort of like a crazy soup of many art genres before resulting in something unique, rich, and bizarre. Many see Dada as an exclusively art movement, and although there were certainly visual artists involved, theater and poetry played just as big of a part in bringing Dada to light. In fact, Arp, one of Dada's members, stated that everything that comes into bringing, or is made by a man, is art. You heard it here first. If it exists, it's art. As any movement does, Dada had its prominent figures. We'll start small. Arthur Graven, who claimed to be Oscar Wilde's nephew, wrote poetry as well as printed attacks on almost every writer or painter at the time. Okay, there's no point in stalling this any longer. I just wanted to tell you about the guy. I think it's funny. Let's get to the arguably most influential figure in the movement, Tristan Tzara. Yes, this man over here was one of the most active Dada members. A poet, journalist, essayist, playwright, performance artist, literary critic, an art critic, composer, and film director. Alright, I think that's all. As you can probably tell, he had many interests, especially in arts. He also loved feeding the press false information about Dadaism. There was also another founder of Dada, though he disagreed with Dara. His name is Hugo Ball, and he posted his Dada manifesto in 1916, which is when the movement was formed, followed by Tzara posting his own response 2 years later in 1918. The two were not the biggest fans of each other, as you might have guessed, and had different outlooks on Dada and what it was. There are 2 instances that show just how bizarre the whole thing was and that I want to talk about. One time in 1920, a bunch of Dadaists organized a performance on the big stage. However, instead of having a regular performance, they shaved their heads on stage and performed idiotic skits. Dara wrote that, for the first time in the history of the world, the people threw at us not only eggs, salads, and pennies, but beefsteaks as well. The audience were extremely Dadaist. Another instance was when Burton tried to organize a great international congress of intellectuals and artists, which led to him being called an imposter by Tzara and others who believed that this idea went against Dada's core concepts. Today, Dada transformed it to surrealism and is considered a respectable art form, which is funny considering that the whole point of the movement was to not be respectable in the first place. Interesting how the night changes, isn't it? Anyway, that's it for today. Enjoy the next 24 hours of your life and have a good night.
Donkey, wake up! Dada!